"My ex is coming to stay for a week," my girlfriend said. "If you feel uncomfortable, you can go to a hotel." "How considerate of you," I replied. Then I booked a suite for that week and hired a moving company to pack up all my things. When she got home, she found the apartment empty. My name is Ethan, I'm 31 years old, and until recently, I thought my life was going well. I lived with Lauren, my 29-year-old girlfriend, in her apartment. Well, it was hers, but I paid half the rent and provided almost everything inside it. The sofa, the TV, the sound system, my desk, and a paludarium that cost me an arm and a leg. It was an aquarium with plants and frogs, something I'd always wanted. At first, Lauren thought it was weird, but later she even seemed to grow fond of the little frogs, or so I thought. Living together wasn't a fairy tale. Lauren had her moments. Sometimes she was controlling, other times she'd create drama over trivial things, like if I left a glass in the sink or didn't answer a text quickly. I let it slide, thinking that's just how relationships are, that you have to compromise. The apartment was close to my work as a freelance graphic designer, and I liked the routine we had. But if I'm honest, I'd already noticed some signs that things weren't as good as I wanted to believe. Everything blew up on a Tuesday night. I was on the sofa checking emails from a client when Lauren walked in with that smile she uses when she wants to get her way. She sat down next to me, a little too close, and dropped the bomb. "Ethan, we need to talk." I looked up, expecting some crazy idea like painting the walls a different color or adopting a dog, but what she said left me cold. "Ryan, my ex, is coming to town next week. I told him he can stay here." I blinked, trying to process it. Ryan, her ex, the guy she sometimes talked about with a tone that set my nerves on edge, was now going to stay in our apartment, where I lived and paid for half of everything. "Stay here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from rising. "And where is he going to sleep?" "On the sofa," she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "It's just for a week. It's not a big deal." "A week?" My tone came out harsher than I intended. "Lauren, did you not think to ask me?" She frowned, as if my reaction offended her. "I didn't think it was a big deal. It's not a stranger. If you feel uncomfortable, you can go to a hotel for a few days." That was like a punch to the gut. Go to a hotel, me, in my own home where I had brought almost everything inside. I looked at her, hoping she'd say it was a joke, but no, her face was serious, almost defiant, as if to say, "If you don't like it, deal with it." "How considerate of you," I said with a sarcasm that she completely missed. "I knew you'd understand," she replied and carried on as if nothing had happened. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I stared at the ceiling while Lauren slept soundly, as if nothing had happened. My mind was racing. It wasn't just about Ryan, though that was bad enough. It was how she had treated me, as if my opinion didn't matter, as if I were a tenant instead of her partner. I thought about all the times I had given in, when she complained about the paludarium because it took up space, when she wanted to replace my sofa with one she saw in a magazine, when she made decisions without consulting me. It was always me who had to adjust. The next morning, while having coffee, I decided I wasn't going to live like this anymore. It wasn't just about Ryan, it was about me, about feeling undervalued. If Lauren wanted to treat me like a guest, she was in for a surprise. That day, while she was at her job at a dental clinic, I started making moves. I didn't want to make a scene or argue. If she was asking me to leave, I would leave, but on my own terms. I looked up hotels and found a boutique one a few blocks away with suites that looked like they were out of a movie. Jacuzzi, city views, a rooftop bar. I booked one for 10 days, not just a week, just in case. The price stung, but I had savings, and a couple of recent projects had left me in a good financial position. I could afford it. Then came the best part, the move. I contacted a high-end moving company that treated your belongings like they were made of glass. I told them I needed to get almost everything out of the apartment quickly and without making a fuss. The woman on the phone, Jessica, was super professional. She said they could come in 2 days while Lauren was at work and store everything in a climate-controlled unit until I decided what to do. Perfect. I made a mental list of what was mine. The sofa, the TV, the sound system, my desk, my chair, the paludarium, my books, my clothes, even the paintings I bought on a trip. Lauren wasn't going to keep a single thing. If she wanted an empty apartment for her ex, she was going to get it. The day of the move was flawless. Lauren left at 8 a.m. as usual. At 9 a.m., the movers were at the door. There were 4 of them, all wearing gloves, as if they were moving a treasure. I pointed out what was mine, which I had marked with post-it notes the night before. The paludarium was the most delicate item. They wrapped it with a care that almost made me laugh. I gave them instructions to take it to the climate-controlled storage because I didn't want to risk the frogs or the plants. Watching them work was strange. On one hand, I felt a rush of adrenaline. On the other, a knot in my stomach. I was leaving behind 2 years of my life, but I also felt something new. Control. For the first time in a long time, I was doing something for myself without thinking about what Lauren wanted. When they finished, the apartment looked like a desert. The living room only had a small coffee table that Lauren had brought from her previous place. The kitchen was left with the basics, plates and glasses that were there before I moved in. In the bedroom, only the bed frame remained because the good mattress was mine. As a final touch, I left an inflatable mattress in the living room with a note for Ryan, "Enjoy." I couldn't resist. I went to the hotel with a small suitcase. The suite was even better than I had imagined. The jacuzzi was bubbling, the view was incredible. I threw myself on the king-size bed, opened a beer from the minibar, and toasted myself. I felt free, although I knew this wasn't going to end easily. I didn't hear from Lauren until that night. I was at the hotel bar having a drink when my phone started buzzing like crazy. Messages from her, at first, confused. "Where is everything?" Then furious. "What did you do with my things?" And then losing it completely. "This is theft, Ethan. Bring everything back or I'm reporting you." I didn't answer. I turned off my phone and ordered another drink. I knew Lauren wouldn't let it go and that her mother, Susan, would surely get involved. But for the first time, I didn't care. I had taken the first step, and there was no turning back. I was at the hotel bar with a whiskey in my hand, looking at the city lights. Freedom felt incredible, but there was also a weight on my chest. It wasn't just about leaving the apartment or the fight that was coming. It was about the 2 years of the relationship, the plans, the arguments, the good times, all crumbling. Every time I had doubts, I remembered Lauren saying, "If you feel uncomfortable, you can go to a hotel." That made me clench my teeth and press on. The next morning, I woke up in the suite with the sun peeking through the curtains. I took a bath in the jacuzzi, something I never had at the apartment, and went down for breakfast. I was having my coffee when I turned on my phone. Big mistake. I had 42 messages and 15 missed calls, mostly from Lauren, some from Susan, and one from an unknown number. I didn't read them all, but the first few set the tone. "Where are my things, Ethan? This is theft. You're going to pay for this." Susan was more direct. "You are an irresponsible person. You are going to destroy my daughter's life." The unknown message was from Michael, a mutual friend. "Hey, Lauren is a mess. What happened? Call me." I didn't call anyone. I wrote a short message to Lauren. "Everything I took is mine. Check the lease. Nothing is in your name. Good luck with Ryan." I sent it and turned off the phone. I didn't want to fall into her game of yelling and guilt-tripping. I knew how she was. First, she'd cry, then she'd scream, and in the end, she'd make you feel like the worst person in the world. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. That day, I decided to disconnect. I went to a coffee shop I liked, worked a bit on a freelance project, and walked around the city. It was strange not having to go back to the apartment, not feeling the pressure of dealing with Lauren. I bought a small plant for the suite to make it feel less impersonal. I didn't know how long I'd be there, but I wanted a touch of home. That night, I received an email from the moving company. Everything was safe in the climate-controlled storage, including the paludarium. They assured me the frogs were fine with a temporary humidity system. I sighed in relief. That paludarium was more than an expensive whim. It was something I'd built with care, a piece of me. The drama returned on the third day. I was at the hotel gym when the receptionist called me. A woman was asking for me in the lobby. I went down, still sweating, and there she was, Lauren, with her arms crossed and a furious look on her face. Susan was with her, wearing that "I'm going to destroy you" expression that always made me nervous. "Ethan, we need to talk," Lauren said without a greeting. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied calmly. "I took what's mine, period." "You left the apartment empty," she shouted, causing a few people in the lobby to turn around. "I have nowhere to sit, no TV, nothing, and the inflatable mattress, is that a joke?" "It's for Ryan," I said, shrugging. "You said he'd sleep on the sofa, but since the sofa is mine, I thought it'd be a nice touch." Susan stepped forward, pointing at me. "You are so ungrateful. My daughter opened her home to you, and this is how you repay her. A home where I'm asked to leave so her ex can stay?" I retorted, "No thanks." Lauren tried to say something, but I cut her off. "If you want to fight, do it with a lawyer. I have receipts for everything I took. There's nothing of yours in that storage unit." She fell silent, but her eyes were shooting fire. Susan tried to speak, But Lauren stopped her, and they left. I didn't feel like a winner, just tired. I knew this wasn't over. That afternoon, Michael called again. I answered because he's not one to get into trouble. He told me that Lauren was telling everyone that I had abandoned her and taken her things. I tried to explain, but he just said, "Bro, I don't know what happened, but she's devastated, and Ryan is at the apartment now."
Ryan is there?
I asked, incredulous. "He arrived yesterday. He has nowhere to stay." I laughed, though there was nothing funny about it. Lauren had really let her ex stay in an empty apartment with an inflatable mattress as the only comfort. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. The following days were a mix of calm and tension. I found a new apartment, small but with good light and space for the paludarium. I signed the lease and coordinated with the moving company to bring my things over in a week. Meanwhile, Lauren didn't stop. I got messages from friends, some supporting me, others asking me to talk to her. Susan sent me a very long email saying she was disappointed that I wasn't the man she thought I was. I deleted it halfway through. Friday was the last straw. I was in the suite reviewing plans for the new apartment when I saw a notification from the bank. Lauren had tried to use our joint card for the rent. The account was nearly empty because I had already moved my share. Minutes later, her message arrived. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. Pay the rent or I'll sue you." That lit a fire under me. I called David, a lawyer friend, and told him everything. He said Lauren had no legal case because the lease was in her name, and I had no obligation to pay. He also suggested I document everything. Messages, calls, the hotel visit, just in case. "It might get ugly," he said. I didn't like the sound of that, but I started taking screenshots. That night, while having dinner at the hotel, I thought about how I had gotten here. A week ago, I was living in an apartment that felt like mine, even though it wasn't entirely. Now, I was in a suite, planning a new life with Lauren and Susan trying to paint me as the villain, but I wasn't. I had chosen my peace. And although I didn't know what was coming, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was on the right path. The next few days were a whirlwind. Lauren didn't give up. The messages kept coming, each more intense than the last. She went from fury to pleading, "Ethan, we can talk. I didn't want it to end like this." Then she'd go back on the attack. "You can't just leave me with nothing, it's inhumane." Susan was also still in the game, sending me texts that oscillated between insults and emotional blackmail. "My daughter doesn't deserve this. Think about what you're doing." I ignored most of it, but I saved everything as David had told me. I didn't want any legal surprises. On Saturday, while having breakfast at the hotel, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Ryan. I froze when I heard his calm but tense voice. "Ethan, it's Ryan. Look, I don't want to get in the middle of your business, but Lauren is out of control. She told me what happened, and I don't know. I feel like I'm caught in the middle of something that's not my problem." I didn't know whether to laugh or hang up. The guy staying in my ex's apartment now wanted to play mediator. I answered, "Ryan, you're not in the middle of anything. Lauren decided to invite you without consulting me. I left. If she's not okay, that's for her to figure out." "I understand," he said, and he sounded sincere. "I just wanted to tell you that I'm leaving today. This is too weird for me." He hung up, and for a moment, I felt something akin to respect for him. At least he had the decency not to stick around as if nothing was wrong. But it also made me laugh to imagine him sleeping on that inflatable mattress surrounded by empty walls. Lauren had really outdone herself. Monday was moving day to the new apartment. The moving company arrived on time, and seeing my things come out of storage felt like closing a chapter. The paludarium was the first thing I set up. I put it in a corner of the living room where the natural light made the plants shine. The frogs seemed happy, or at least they weren't complaining. As I organized the rest, the sofa, the TV, my desk, I felt like I was truly building something of my own, not a shared place where I was always compromising, but a space that was just for me. That same afternoon, I received an email from Lauren. It was long, full of reproaches, but it also had a new tone, desperation. She said she couldn't afford the rent alone, that the apartment was unlivable without my things, and that Ryan had left after 2 days because there was nothing comfortable. She ended by asking me to come back, that we could fix things. For a second, I hesitated, not because I wanted to get back with her, but because a part of me felt sorry for her. But then I remembered all the times she made me feel like a tenant, and I deleted the email. Things got ugly on Wednesday. I was working in my new apartment when someone rang the doorbell. It was a delivery man with a certified letter. I opened it, expecting a bill, but it was a legal notice. Lauren was suing me for misappropriation of her belongings. I laughed, But I was also worried. I called David immediately. He reviewed the letter and laughed himself. "This is a joke," he said. "She has no proof that anything you took belongs to her. Send me the receipts for everything, and this won't even get to first base." I sent him everything. Invoices for the sofa, the TV, the paludarium, even the paintings. David told me not to worry, but to be prepared in case Lauren or Susan continued to escalate. And they did. The next day, Susan showed up at my new building. I don't know how she got the address, but there she was, yelling at the entrance like it was a soap opera. "Ethan, come out right now. You can't do this to my daughter." I called the doorman and asked him not to let her up. I also recorded everything from the window, just in case. That night, I wrote to David and told him what happened. He suggested I file for a restraining order. At first, it seemed extreme, but when Susan came back the next day with Lauren, I changed my mind. Lauren didn't yell. She just stood there, looking at the building with a face I couldn't decipher. Sadness, anger, who knows? But I didn't care. I went to the police station that afternoon and filed a request. The order came through 2 days later, covering both of them. With that, the direct harassment stopped, but Lauren kept trying to contact me through other means. She sent mutual friends to write to me, to call me, even a cousin of hers I didn't know, all with the same message: "Lauren is not doing well, talk to her." But I had already made my decision. It wasn't just about Ryan or the apartment. It was about how I had felt for the last few months. Invisible, devalued, I wasn't going back to that. A week later, I was sitting on my new sofa with a beer in hand, the paludarium humming softly in the background. The apartment was taking shape. My books on the shelves, a couple of new plants, a rug I bought just because. I felt at peace. Not perfect, but real. I spoke with Michael, who told me that Lauren had found a roommate to cover the rent but was still complaining about me to anyone who would listen. Ryan had apparently disappeared off the map after his brief stay on the inflatable mattress. David called me a few days later. Lauren's lawsuit had been dismissed. She had no proof, and the receipts I provided were irrefutable. He said she probably wouldn't try anything legal again but to stay vigilant. He also suggested I change my phone number, and I did. It was like cutting the last thread that tied me to her. Weeks passed, and life began to feel normal again. I got back into my work routine, went out with friends, and even started seeing someone new, though I was taking it slow. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. The paludarium became my pride and joy. I added some LED lights that made the frogs seem to glow. Every time I looked at it, I remembered why I had done all this, because I deserved a place where I could be myself without having to give in all the time. The last I heard of Lauren was from Michael a month later. He told me she had tried to contact me on social media, but since I had blocked her, she couldn't. He also told me that she had sold the inflatable mattress on a second-hand app. I laughed, imagining her writing the ad, "Hope Ryan enjoyed it while it lasted." Now, as I write this, I'm on my balcony looking out at the city. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I have to please anyone but myself. Lauren and Susan can keep thinking I'm the bad guy, but I don't care. I have my apartment, my frogs, my work, and a peace of mind that I wouldn't trade for anything. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that bring you back to yourself. And me, I'm finally back.